This video is brought to you by Knowledge at the Australian School of Business. For more information, please visit knowledge.asb.unsw.edu.au.
Now, to cut its debt levels, Greece has announced an austerity package, and it's also had a bond issue. Wolfgang Bühler is with me. Now, let's first of all start with some background. How did Greece get into this mess to start with?
Well, Greece first is a small economy. It's about 10% of the GDP of Germany. They have a very strong impact in the tourism industry, so 75% of the GDP is coming from services. But this is not the main reason. The main reason is basically that they took up too much debt. They have an inefficient bureaucracy, and there is some kind, it's second-hand information, I have to admit, some kind of corruption, let's say it like that way, right? But it's basically, they hired about 80,000 new people for the bureaucracy in the last years.
Are you suggesting maybe that they've been a little bit creative in their bookkeeping?
Yeah, absolutely. That's more, we are now more focusing on the problem that we are currently discussing, right? It started in 2001 when Greece became a member of the European zone. And already at that time, it was basically well-known public knowledge that there is some creative accounting, like in other countries also, right? There were many possibilities. And it became even more obvious in 2004, 2005, when the Eurostat, European Office of Statistics, claimed that they couldn't get all the data they need in order to control what the Greece Statistical Office is presenting. And the background of this is that the Statistical Office in Greece is not independent from the government, as the other statistical offices are. So the data are under control of the government. And they always wanted to go deeper into the raw data, and that was not possible. And they didn't get the right to do so. So Mr. Rademacher, who is the president of this office, blames the European governments for that also.
So to get out of this mess that Greece may, to a certain extent, have been instrumental in creating, Greece has announced this austerity package. Yes. Pay is going to be cut. Taxes are going to rise, and Greece says that these measures alone will reduce its level of debt from 12% of GDP down to only 8% of GDP. Can we really believe that?
First, cutting debt, that is a net debt per year, it's not the level, cutting the debt from 12.7 by 4 percentage points would mean that the program should have about $10 billion, the size of the program. It is about 5 billion, so the cut is not 4%, but 2%. Surprisingly, nobody talks about that. And even so, it's a hard cut, and it's not clear whether it will really be possible to do that. But we have to admit that there are already people from the International Monetary Fund in Greece that are going to control the data.
And we're just coming out of now the global financial crisis, and yet to have such large pay cuts, and for an average worker in Greece, suddenly they're going to have less money, they'll be putting less money into the economy. There was some suggestion, certainly Der Spiegel, that the German newspaper overnight was saying this will just rush Greece into a great big depression.
That's one of the problems, and it was always one of the problems that, for example, the International Monetary Fund experienced when using these austerity programs in other countries. So this is a risk, but there is no way going out of that. The only point is that you do it smoothly over time. So I think 4% cut is too ambitious. 2%, if they really do it, is good. It's a good step. And going down to 3% in 2012, I think is really, there's no way to do that. That would really make it a small revolution in Greece.
Okay, well, if they're trying to do this, but maybe it's a bit optimistic to achieve it, the other thing that Greece has been doing has been to announce a bond issue to really try and reduce the level of debt that they've got there. Yeah. And the take-up of this really seems to have been very good indeed. In fact, it's oversubscribed. What do you make of that?
You know, it's in the market, it's a question of the yield you offer, right? And if the spread, the default spread above, let's say, the benchmark bonds, the German benchmark bonds, is large enough, people will buy it. And I think the yield of 6.5% was larger than expected in order to be on the safe side for this issue, and it was also subscribed. So this is a good signal to the market, and it means that Greece is able to refinance their debt. It will be about 50 billion this year and about 6 to 8 billion in March. And this is a good signal, and so the liquidity part of the problem will be solved.
And so you've got a good signal really ahead of these talks that are happening between the Greek Prime Minister and Angela Merkel. She's the German Chancellor. But she at the same point must be pretty wary of a Greek who comes not bearing gifts, but bearing the gift of a lot of debt. What do you think will happen at these talks?
You mean on Friday?
That's
today?
Right,
or
yeah.
It's about 12 hours in the future. I think that will be very clear talk. They will talk about the future possibilities. Papandreou will say, okay, if the European Union will not help, we will go to the International Monetary Fund, which is one of the solutions. Many people recommend to do that. They have the experience. So many scientists in Germany recommend to go with the IWF. But on the political side, the European governments not really want to do it to full extent, because Europe is a European an economic union, and they would show that they are not able to handle their problems themselves, and that is important to show. I think the IMF will help in the background, and that's a good solution to do it in that way. They have the experience. There is no comparable institution in Europe up to now. Personally, I believe that after this experience, Europe will set up something like a European Monetary Fund, let's say within 2-year span, in order to resolve these problems. That will be a model for future problems, what happens now.
Wolfgang Bühler from the Australian School of Business, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure.
For more business news and analysis from Knowledge at the Australian School of Business, please visit knowledge.asb.unsw.edu.au.